All right. All right. Well, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I would like to call the February 3rd, 2021 special meeting of the Croton-Harmon Board of Education to order, and recommended action that the Board of Education approves the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, so we will move right into our new business and recommended action that the Board of Education approves the resolution recommending the offering of high-risk sports as presented. Can I get a motion on that? Or
So moved.
Iris and Neil, did you want a second?
Yeah.
All right, so on the question, I know we do have Mr. Galino who's joined us this evening. If anyone has any questions regarding this, or if you wanted to just give us a brief overview of the latest updates from the Department of Health.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Updates from the Department of Health. So they released some documents to us last night and a couple of the changes that we have to do. So I think one of the key ones is any student athlete that had previously tested positive for COVID-19, before they can be cleared by the nurse and then also return to participate in athletics, they need to get a medical clearance from their family physicians. That's a cardiac clearance. You know, how their family physician decides to do that is through EKG or some other kind of exam. That would right now is more up to them. We might be getting some more guidance specifically on that. And I think the other thing also is for those student athletes, what we will do, similar to when an athlete sustains a concussion, we'll do a return to play protocol where we gradually ease them back into physical training, physical conditioning. So that I think that was one of the key things. Also, we have to have all the parents sign off on a consent, kind of a warning that tells them about how COVID-19 is a high risk when you're playing some of the high risk sports that we're speaking about, that they understand what the risks are, and they sign off saying that they understand them and they approve for their child to participate in athletics. Another thing, obviously, which we're doing this evening, we have to pass a board resolution. And then what we're doing with our coaches is, we're going to be taking them through a training to bring them up to speed on all the assorted changes and regulations that they now have to be responsible for. I think fortunately, a couple of things we were ahead of the curve because we had started some intramurals where coaches were taking care of doing the daily attendance. Between myself and Laura Duback, we created a procedure for kids that may get sick or may feel ill at practice. We put a procedure in place for that. So I think at this point in time, I think we really just have these three things that we have to do. We're going to probably post a consent through Family ID and have the parents sign off on that electronically so we can maintain a record of that like we do all the time with all the athletic information. I think the one thing that presently is still unclear is the physical exam the athlete has to take. State Education Department had told us that physicals from the 2018-2019 school year and the 2019-20 school year were still good for medical clearance to participate, as well as one taken this academic year. When the document came out from the Department of Health yesterday, they were indicating the physical had to come from this academic year. There seems to be some confusion on that because we had received something different from the State Department of Health and the State Education Department. So we're waiting for some potentially what is going to be an update to that document which they released. The Department of Health did say, they wanted to be aligned with the State Education Department with that. So I think that's, where we are right now.
If I could just add, Mike, for the board, you will see in the resolution, we have to be specific as to the sports that we are offering. So that's why you see them delineated as they are. You will note that we do have Varsity Wrestling on there. Mike and I have had a lot of dialogues, as well as Mike with Dr. Meir. Mike, I know you've been very forthcoming with the wrestling families to share what you envision wrestling to be. I think what's really important here is the parent communication piece, so that Mike is very clear as to what the season will look like with all of the sports. But would you just share just very briefly your vision for wrestling? Because that one tends to be and cause a lot of concern in some folks' minds. So if you'd share a little on that.
Sure. No, I think, and even in the most recent document that we received and correspondence, today, the Westchester County Health Commissioner clearly has reservations about the sport of wrestling being contested. So, at this point in time, what we plan to do at Croton Harmon is we're going to follow more along the lines of the intramural model. So we will bring the athletes in. They will have the opportunity to train and condition individually. We're just about ready to open up the wellness center, the fitness center, so we can work out in there. We will also be able to do activities related to wrestling that are really individual. So we're not necessarily, there's no body-to-body contact wrestling as you would envision it. I think it's important for those athletes to be able to have this opportunity because we're really trying to grow the wrestling program. We hired a new coach that is highly qualified. So we want to at least get them in there and be able to do some physical activity training and begin to think about preparing for next year. And of course, as we know, which is the case with all the student athletes, the mental health advantages are immense.
Thank you, Mike. And then the only other thing I would add is that last be it further resolved of your resolution. Again, we put in a piece that should we believe we need to have some testing protocols, using the Binax now antigen testing that the state has provided school districts with. That we reserve that right, and as well as, if we need to move to hybrid or remote during, based on a COVID-19 concerns that, sporting participants have to understand that could be a possibility as well. So now I'll open it up if anybody had questions for Mike.
Anyone?
Am I muted? Oh, my question is, what percentage of the districts in Westchester County or in our immediate area do we think are actually passing resolutions like this and are actually going to participate in these sports?
Josh, good question. I can tell you this, from what I saw today, just through email, and we are having a Section 1 meeting, all three conferences tomorrow, where Dave will actually give you more specifics. It seems to me that most schools are going forward with the resolution and going forward with the sports participation. And also many schools are doing a couple of different things. Some schools have decided not to do wrestling, period. Some schools have decided not to go into mergers, and some schools have decided to not do allow for the APP process. But from what I was able to see today, I can't say that I saw any athletic director indicating that their school is not going to pass this resolution in play. I think they're going to be very delayed into next week, so they get all the pieces in place. But if you want, I can give you specifics after this meeting tomorrow.
Interesting. Does anybody else have any questions? Because I have some thoughts before I ask. If anybody, I want to give others an opportunity to ask questions before I opine.
I think you can go away, Josh. Pine away.
Yeah. I have to be honest. I'm very conflicted about this. On one hand, I understand that physical activity and athletics are very important to a very large portion of our student body, and that it's missed, and that it's important for our students. On the other hand, I look at the graphs of infection rates and I see that we're still way higher than we even were at the worst back in March and April in terms of infection rates. And that terrifies me a bit. And we need to wonder whether we are getting a bit ahead of ourselves and getting a bit ahead. I understand that the Department of Health thinks that this is a good idea, but to be honest, I honestly think that Departments of Health and to a certain degree, New York State are being driven by political forces that want things to open up fast. And given where we are and given the current state of vaccination, I really, really worry about the risk of close contact sports. Now, at the same time, I know, if we're doing wrestling and cheerleading and wrestling are the two that actually worry me the most because they involve the most physical contact, I think, right? So coming to this, I didn't know how I was going to vote on this, and I still don't know, and it worries me. It worries me.
Josh, if I can respond.
Sure.
One thing, just to respond for cheerleading. I think presently we only have 2 cheerleaders that have signed up to cheer. And then, I think with cheerleading also, definitely, at least initially, we're going to be looking at the same model we're going to use with wrestling because, there's a lot of things you can do in competitive cheer that can be done as an individual because there's dancing, there's tumbling, things like that. So, and also, with all these sports, it's just the general getting into physical shape. And, when we think about it, it's so pretty much, let me just assume we start next Monday. We have a week, then we go on break. Again, quite honestly, how many kids will be around for the break? I'm not really sure because nobody anticipated this was going to occur. And then we come back. We have 3 weeks and it's all done. So it's going to be a relatively short period of time. But I think our athletic program, the place where you're going to see the largest participation, of course, is going to be in basketball. And I could tell you presently we have. I think it was like 27 boys and 19 girls that was signed up and cleared to play. But so we were really able to kind of focus on a small population of kids in the athletic program and put the different precautions in place that the health department has given us, and that's where we would be right now. But I think the cheerleading and the wrestling is going to really go more of the physical training individual route.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Michael. I will say, I think hearing that, I think gives me a lot more comfort, particularly with regard to those 2 sports. Andrea, did you have a question or?
I was just curious, how many kids do you think are interested in wrestling? And I also just want to say thank you, Josh, for asking those questions.
Sure. What we did is we put out a survey to all the 5th through 12th graders. Probably now could be close to 3 weeks to a month ago. And we received back, I believe we had between all those grades, we had 10. And then, about a week or so, a little over a week ago, we did a meeting where we kind of had an interest meeting. So we introduced the coach to those families that had interest. But to cut it down right now, we have 4 high school students, and the other kids one was a middle school kid, and the other was actually elementary school kids, 5th grade, 6th grade, who aren't eligible to participate. So right now we do have a solid 4 kids that are interested in going forward with it. All of them are underclassmen.
Thank you, Mike.
And
Does anyone else have any other
think
questions?
it was you know, Mike and I, Mike has also spoken with Dr. Meir and continues dialogue with Dr. Meir. And then, you know, again, to stress the important piece of that last be it further, because we will be continually monitoring everything. And if we need to suspend, we suspend. And I think that's what's going to be really important when Mike has, you know, parent meetings, and making sure that everybody is aware of what the protocols are, et cetera. So, you know, people are aware.
The other thing I was mentioning, another piece that came out in the Department of Health document is that we're required to have an athletic COVID coordinator. We need to report that person's name and to the County Department of Health. So that person, who I would anticipate is going to be me, is the person that will be going around on a daily basis, making sure, you know, when you walk into a gym or to the fitness center, making sure that the coaches are following the protocols that we put in place.
Does anyone have any further questions? All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Iris is an aye. Oppose?
I think I'm an aye.
Okay. Abstain? All right. Motion carries. We have 4 in favor. Neil, you're muted. Were you trying to say something?
Yeah, I just want to know, Josh, were you opposed?
No.
In favor.
Okay, so we have five, we're 5-0,
Okay.
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yep. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will now move into the closing of the meeting. Recommended action that the Board of Education adjourns this meeting at 7:05 p.m.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Galino. There you are. I'm looking
Thank
through
you.
my squares.
Yeah.
So thank you
Thanks.
very much for joining us and giving us an update.
Thank you.
And
Mike.
Yep.